At almost every clinic I ever conducted, I had people in programs who had multiple year quits that were lost. They relapsed after being off a year or two. And I would say in about a quarter of my clinics, I had people who were off for 10 years plus who had relapsed and were now smokers again. I had two record holders for numerous years that were 25-year plus ex-smokers who ended up smoking again and then eventually working their way into my clinic. And I actually kind of thought, because that record held for a really long time, that would be the record holder, those two people. There was actually a man, though, who I had who came into a program, and he was in his, I think, mid-60s, and he had said that he had taken up smoking as an adult. And literally, he'd only been smoking for about 10 years, and he was in his mid-60s. And I said, and you never smoked before? When he was introducing the first day, I said, no, he never was a smoker. And I was surprised by that, but I had to take him at his word. And it was interesting because he was in a medical profession, so I thought it was quite bizarre that he had taken up smoking at this time in his life, in his mid-50s, but that's what he said occurred. It wasn't until several days into the clinic that we were discussing some topic, or somebody was bringing up smoking when they were kids, and all of a sudden he kind of pipes up with this. He says, oh, well, he actually did smoke when he was a kid. He smoked in high school, but he quit, I think, even before he got to college, so he only smoked for maybe 3 or 4 years, and he never really counted that. In this whole interim period before he had taken up smoking, he just never thought he was a smoker. He was only smoking as a kid, and that was no problem. Well, it's quite evident that this man became addicted as a kid. Now, yes, he quit smoking. He quit when he got into college. He had an addiction that he just never played around with, but in his mid-50s. And what this really translated into is this man had likely been off smoking after getting himself addicted as a kid. He quit smoking. He was off for, I think we did the calculation at the time, for 35 years and had taken a puff and lost it. He thought he took up smoking for the first time in his mid-50s. He didn't. He took up smoking as a youth. He had quit, was off for 35 years, took a drag, and now, 10 years later, he's in a clinic of mine trying to get off of smoking. This is an important message for people. It's important for people who may be hearing this, who really are long-term former smokers, who figure, like, there's no way they can go back to smoking. I mean, they got several years under their belt. Well, this guy had 35 years under his belt. And again, as I noted before, I had hundreds of people who had multiple year quits. In fact, it was probably over 1,000 people who had multiple year quits. But I had a lot of people who were 10 plus years, 15 years, and again, a couple of 25 and 35. The important message in that is, I don't care how long you're off for. One puff and that quit can go out the window. But the other important reason I wanted to get this message out there is to help people understand the addictive nature. If a puff can put a person back after those great time periods, think what it's going to do to a person who's off for a few days and decides, oh, they just want to get one to get through this moment now. They're having a bad time right now. Oh, they had a few days under their belt, but this won't be a big deal. Hey, if it could put you back to smoking after decades, you kind of guess what it's going to do after a day or two or a few hours without smoking. You've got to recognize what it is you're dealing with. We're dealing with drug addiction here. And once you administer that drug, it takes you down to where you were before. If you've been an addict, an active addict for months, for years, for decades, that addiction is there. It's in place. And given the opportunity, and that opportunity is administration of nicotine, administering nicotine will put you back to using. And the alternative, the way to avoid ever having to deal with quitting again, to deal with withdrawals again, to deal with risks that smoking can pose once you quit, whether you're off for a short time period or whether you're off for years or decades now, the way to keep this quit going and keeping all the benefits that go with that is by sticking to a personal commitment to never take another puff